Hey guys, very good evening. So I'm just waiting for everyone to go live and then we can start this session. In fact, for myself to go live only. So just give me 1 second. Let me check if I'm live or not. So we're just waiting for a moment. Just to check if I'm live or not and then we will start. Okay. Yes. I think I'm live. Wonderful, guys. All right, wonderful, guys. Let us get started with today's session now that I am live. All right, so the non-CAT test series has started on 2nd of December, guys, and you have to join this because, of course, it is time for all the non-CAT exams like XAT, Enrol, IFT, SNAP, and TISNET. Remember, twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, same day analysis. Do join up. Okay, IFT, the first mock happens on 5th of December, guys. So that's your first mock. SNAP, the first mock happens on 9th of December. So make sure you are joining us for this. And NMAT, the second mock happens on 12th of December. So NMAT 2 mocks, 5th and 12th, and SNAP right in between on the 9th of December. So make sure you join us for each one of these tests, guys. The non-CAT test series is also equally important for us. So do make sure that you do join us for each one of these tests. Okay. All right, let me remind you my upcoming courses, Mahaset 28th of December, starting very quickly. Decision making up starting 16th of December. Guys, we're just waiting for all of these. The XAT course is already on every day, 11 a.m. We are doing a lot of sessions on XAT, guys. Remember this. If you haven't yet connected with me, use Abhilasha English on Telegram or Abhilasha_S on Unacademy to connect with me. If you haven't yet enrolled or logged on to unacademy.com, please use AbhiCat. That is my referral code or my discount code to unlock all the courses and get as much benefit as you can. This is something that will give you at least 10% discount on all the courses and the best discount you can get with the best VARC educator. So do make sure that you are joining us for this course, guys. All right, today I'm going to be talking about passage-based CR because, guys, like we've been talking every single day, XAT has many important elements to it, and one of the bigger chunks of question, at least 5 to 6 questions in XAT come from CR. So apart from reading comprehension, then critical reasoning becomes the next most important area that we have to test, and that is why in this session I'm going to be discussing critical reasoning and I'm going to be talking about what you need to do while you're preparing. So a little bit of concept, and then of course in the next sessions we will discuss a couple of questions so that you get very good at this. So let's first understand the question type and then we will take it forward. So critical reasoning essentially in the question gives you a small paragraph, and that paragraph is followed by, so there is a set of statements which we call the argument, and this argument is followed by a question. Okay, and then this question is followed by your 5 options, so A, B, C, D and E, whatever. So these 5 options will be followed. So in this case, the first thing is that you should be able to understand the argument and the question. So this is what we will learn today, how to understand the question and how to understand the argument and how to use them to the best of your ability. So that's what we will start with, how to analyze your argument and how to understand a question. So let's get started. So the argument or this passage that you get has essentially got 3 parts. The first part is something called a conclusion, okay, which is the author's assertion or the point that the author wants to make, the thing that he wants to tell you, his conclusion. And then you get premise or premises. Now the premises are nothing but statement of facts which the writer will used to lead to his conclusion. So this is the second thing. So these statements of facts or reasons for your assertion. So all the premises, when you add up the premises, okay, and apart from this you add up the assumption to this, then you reach the conclusion. So the third part of this argument is the assumption, which is the third part, which is the underlying logic or the unwritten fact or the unstated premise. So this is that fact that you and I already understand, and therefore I don't have to say it. For example, I say that Sita is a lovely dancer, and therefore she is going to be performing at XYZ festival. So automatically you know that Sita is a lovely dancer is the reason why she's going to be performing at that festival. And at the back of our mind, we know that anyone who's a good dancer, okay, can perform at that festival, or to perform at that festival you need to be a good dancer. So that then becomes my assumption, the implied logic, the underlying thought that we have not written, but yes, we do understand and we do use as our argument. So guys, these are the three parts of your critical reasoning question: the conclusion, the premise or premises, and the assumption. So in every question it becomes very important that we should be able to understand each one of these and then take it forward. तो हम ये चीज जो है ना सीखने वाले हैं कि how do we understand the argument, and then we will learn how to do the questions also. तो ये तीनों पार्ट्स पहचानोगे कैसे? कंक्लूजन पहचानने के लिए द बेस्ट थिंग इज टू यूज द कंक्लूजन आइडेंटिफायर्स. सो वर्ड्स लाइक सो, देयरफॉर, thus, in conclusion, that's why, as a result, consequently, as a consequence. When you see these, the phrase that comes after this is the conclusion. Now a lot of times you may not get something like this. So in that case you ask why. So you take the argument, you divide it into sentences, and with each sentence you frame a why question. Why this? Why this? Why this? And the question then becomes the conclusion if rest of the statements can be added together to form the answer. So if I have all the premises added together and all of them form the answer to this question, then the question is the conclusion and the answer is the premise. Okay, so when I ask why has Sita been asked to perform at the festival, the answer is because she's a lovely dancer. And so see, the answer, the premise is the reason and the question is the conclusion. So as simple as that. All right, let's look at some questions and let's try and analyze a few arguments. Let's look at this first question, which says, hey guys, all those who have joined me, hi. So I hope this is something that will help you a lot, and I hope you will understand this also. So Amazon is India's largest online store and it has nearly 5 million products listed on it. So when I look at this argument and I tell myself, okay, there is no conclusion identifier. So then how will I find the conclusion? So I know I'll ask why. So I'll ask, why is Amazon India's largest online store? And the answer is because it has nearly 5 million products listed on it. So the second statement then becomes the premise and the first statement then becomes the conclusion. If I look at the second one, I say the population of India is very large and so it has a very high chance of corona contamination. Now this so is a conclusion identifier, right? So let me write CI here. So therefore it has a very high chance of corona contamination becomes my conclusion. So this becomes my conclusion. And the reason for this is that the population of India is very large and therefore this becomes my premise. Okay. So whenever you have a doubt, always check. How will you do it? Ask why. And the reason, the statement where you ask because becomes the premise. The statement where you add the why and you get the answer to becomes the conclusion. So simple. Ask, why is Amazon India's largest online store? Because it has nearly 5 million products listed on it. Simple. When I ask, why does Amazon have nearly 5 million products listed on it? I don't get an answer to that as because it is India's largest online store. That is a ridiculous thing, right? So therefore, the first statement is the conclusion. The second one is the premise. Again, in the second one also the same thing. When I ask, why is the population of India very large? I don't get an answer to this and therefore this cannot be the conclusion. But when I ask why does India have a very high chance of corona contamination, my answer is there, yes, because the population of India is very, very large. So this is how you ask your question why, or you look for the conclusion identifier and find the conclusion. Okay, so simple. Now, when the question says, how do you identify the conclusion? So, whenever the question will ask you to identify the conclusion, in your own mind, you should remember that the premises will be given. Okay. And how you will identify the conclusion is you ask why with the options. So, take each option and ask a why question. Why this? Why this? Why option A? Why option B? Why option C? Hey guys, hey Sachin, hey Saurav. That's okay, guys. So why option C, why option D? When you ask these, questions, what will happen is you will start getting your answers in the argument. For example, now I will take up another question. Here, let's take a look at this question. The statements above, if true, best support which of the following assertions? That means one of these is the conclusion. Okay, one of these is the conclusion, and this is the set of premises. So now all I have to do is find out that which of these will be the correct set of premises for us. Okay. So as simple as that in this question. Okay. I hope you've understood that. I'll just move the camera a little bit. I think there's a slight problem. Okay. I hope I've just moved a little bit. All right. मैं थोड़ा तो मूव की हूँ बट पता नहीं मूव हुआ या नहीं हुआ. Oh yes, okay, I have moved. All right, wonderful. Now let's take a look. So let's first read the premises and then we'll take it to the question. So the cost of producing radios in country Q is 10% less than the cost of producing radios in country Y. Even after you add the transportation and tariff, it is still cheaper for a company to import radios from country Q to country Y than to produce radios in country Y. Now what is it that I can conclude? Okay. Sachin, it's unfortunately not my dog. I don't have dogs. I only have a child. Okay. The dogs are street dogs and I don't know why they're going crazy. But for some reason they are. Anyway, so चलो let's take a look. तो अब क्वेश्चन तो ये हो गया. क्वेश्चन एक बार फिर से समझते हैं कि कंट्री क्यू और कंट्री वाई दोनों में रेडियोस बना रहे हैं. कंट्री क्यू में कंट्री वाई में अगर 100 रुपीज में बनता है तो कंट्री क्यू में 10% लेस यानी 90 में बनता है. ओके. इसमें व्हेन आई ऐड द ट्रांसपोर्टेशन एंड टैरिफ इवन देन दिस इज लेस देन दिस 100 rupees. Okay, so that's what we are saying. Now labor cost in country Q are 10% below those in country Y. Now if I asked why is the labor cost in country Q 10% below those in country Y, I will not be able to calculate the labor cost and therefore I doubt that this is the answer. When I ask importing radios from country Q to country Y will eliminate 10% of the Y, will it eliminate 10% of the manufacturing jobs in country Y? I still don't get an answer. So eliminate. Why is the tariff on a radio imported from country Q to country Y less than 10% of the cost of manufacturing? Because I can see it here that if 90 is the cost and you add tariff and transport to it, it's still less than 100 rupees. That means this tariff and transport together is less than 10% the cost. So by itself, tariff will be less than 10% for sure. So this is something that I can conclude. Okay. Let's look at the last one. It takes 10% less time to manufacture. Why does it take 10% less time to manufacture a radio in country Q than it does in country Y? Again, my problem is I cannot understand this. Why? There is no answer. So the only question that I did actually find an answer to was option number C, and therefore that becomes my correct answer. Okay, so when you're looking at these questions, now the ones that ask you to identify the conclusion, now the question could be framed in so many ways. So which option is supported by the given statements? Okay, 1. It could say to identify the conclusion. It could have said the argument leads to which of the following conclusion. any of these, when the question says this, you have to identify the conclusion of the passage. That means one, the premises will only be given, the conclusion will not be given in the argument. And then the best way is to ask why. Of course, you can also add up all the premises and see where it is taking you, but asking why will also work in a very good way. So this is one type of question, guys, you will get in critical reasoning. The second type of question that you will get, which is based on conclusion, is the strengthen the conclusion question. Now, when you get the strengthen the conclusion questions, yes, Saikat, your answer was absolutely right. It was C. When you get the strengthen the conclusion question, remember what is given is the conclusion and the premises. So that's one thing. Now the conclusion can be strengthened by any of these. It can either be conclusion by a restatement of the conclusion, or it can be strengthened by a statement that provides some sort of supporting proof. So in your options, you have to find any one of these. Either find a restatement or find a supporting proof. Okay, so the minute you found one of these, you've got your answer. You know that you will find the statement that will strengthen your conclusion. Now, so in your mind, when you see a question that's asked for strengthening the conclusion, first of all, look for the conclusion, okay, or the argument as they say it. It could be anything, but look for the conclusion of the passage. Then start looking for what will be something that is either a restatement or will provide a supporting proof. Once you've got that, your question is sorted. Okay. So यही है अपना question. Okay. Let's take a look at this question. It's a lovely question. Huh? Which of the following is most likely to support the above thought? So I've got this passage and we are looking for one of these which will support our conclusion. So let's read this and let's try and solve this. So the writer can only be fertile if he renews himself. And he can only renew himself if his soul is constantly enriched by fresh experience. Okay. So tell me what will be the correct answer. Come on, guys. Critical reasoning will give you 5 to 6 questions. So ये बहुत solid question type होगा. इसको करोगे तो बहुत अच्छा आंसर मिल सकता है और बहुत बढ़िया तरीके से कर सकते हो. So, which of these can be concluded? Let's take a look. Is likely to support the above thought. तो ऐसा कौन सा statement है जो कहेगा हाँ भाई ये correct है. Now, only out of fresh experience can the writer get germs for new writing. So, we are talking of fresh experience giving writer a germ for new writing. Now, this is not a restatement of the passage. Okay. Clearly, it is not a restatement. So, let's put a star on this. Okay. It is a restatement because the passage says the writer can only be fertile. Fertile means what? He is writing. Okay, if he renews himself, and he can only renew himself if his soul is constantly enriched by fresh experience. So look at this. This is such a lovely restatement statement, man. This is amazing. Okay, let's put a star on this. The writer can meet new people. If the writer can meet new people, but is he actually renewing himself? No. So let's eliminate that. Writer must see new places. But is it necessary to see new places to renew himself? Is it going to support something? No. A writer's soul can only be enriched if it is fertile. Now, if the writer's soul is fertile, then it can be enriched. Now, this is the opposite of what the writer had said. The writer had said that he can only be fertile if he renews himself and if his soul is constantly enriched by fresh experience. So remember, when we have if P then Q type of statement, then if Q then P cannot be a strengthened statement. It is okay. It does not do anything by way of strengthening your given statement. And therefore the fourth cannot be the correct answer. So the first one, which was just a restatement of your passage, is the one that will be the correct conclusion. Okay guys, I hope ये समझ में आया होगा सबको. How do you strengthen a statement? Okay guys, ठीक है? Alright, let's come to the third thing. How do you weaken a conclusion? अब weaken करने के लिए जब question आएगा तो दिमाग में रखो कि conclusion और premises will be given to you. And the conclusion can be weakened by any one of the following. How? So first you can find some proof which says that the conclusion is false. So let us say the conclusion is C. Then if you find a statement which says that it is not C, okay, then that can be a good way of weakening the conclusion. The other way of weakening a conclusion is by finding an alternative solution. Okay, so let us say somebody said cats are cute. So you say no, dogs are cute. So D not C becomes another way of weakening the conclusion. Okay. And the third way of doing this could be by finding out a statement which will be the reason for another alternative conclusion, or which will be a counter example. Okay, so that can also be a way of weakening a conclusion. So if you wish to weaken a conclusion, there can be these three ways. So let us say your conclusion is C. So number one, you can find not C, or C is false. That's a way of weakening. The second way you can weaken it is by finding an alternative conclusion D. Now if you found the alternative conclusion says C हो ही नहीं सकता, D होगा, so that is also valid. The third way of weakening a conclusion can be by finding a reason for alternative conclusion. So reason R for your alternative conclusion D. So this R can also be a way of weakening it. Okay. So to weaken a conclusion, you can do any of these. One, you can find a statement which says the conclusion itself is false. Two, you can find an alternative conclusion. And three, you can find a reason for an alternative conclusion. So all three will be possible ways of identifying, of weakening a particular conclusion that you have in your question. Okay. So ऐसे करके weaken कर सकते हैं. अब एक question try कर लेते हैं weaken करने का. Alright, take a look at this. Which of the following is likely? Always read this question first. Which of the following is likely to undermine the above argument? Now, undermine, weaken, negate, falsify. Okay, all of these mean that you are weakening the argument. So let's try and read this and let's understand. So it says, unless you dedicate your whole life to it, you will never learn to speak the language of another country to perfection. So you will never know its people and its literature with complete intimacy. So the writer is saying that you have to dedicate your whole life to learn to speak the language of another country to perfection. Okay, and we have to say that no, you don't have to dedicate your whole life. Okay, so let's take a look at the options. So option number one says I can speak 10 foreign languages already. Okay, let me put a star. So this man can already speak 10 foreign languages, but does he do it with perfection? We don't know. So put a star. I do not travel to foreign countries, of course, is irrelevant for us. Okay, so this one is useless for us. So इसे हटा देते हैं. I am happy with the languages I know and I do not need to learn any other language. Again, इससे भी हमें कोई मतलब नहीं है. ये तो irrelevant हो गया ना, हमारे scope में ही नहीं है. Because we are looking at finding someone who says, oh, you don't have to dedicate your whole life. Now look at the next one. I should spend time to understand my own people and literature first, and only then can I appreciate other languages and culture. Now look at this. The first one, the given argument said that if you don't dedicate your whole life to it, you cannot learn the language of another country to perfection. But this one says that the first thing that you have to do is you have to understand your own language and your own people and your own literature, and then only you can appreciate other languages. Now if you don't, so now what we are saying is that दूसरी language को learn करने के लिए, to learn another language, the first thing you have to do is understand your own language. So not dedicate your whole life to learning the other language. First spend time in learning about your own country, and then only you will be able to learn about another country. So therefore this one then is a perfect statement for weakening our conclusion, right? So this one gives you another reason that you don't have to dedicate your life to it. First you have to learn this thing. Okay, so this gives you an alternative conclusion, and therefore guys, this becomes my correct answer. Okay, so I hope you've understood these three ways of identifying a conclusion. a strengthening a conclusion, and a weakening a conclusion. When we do our next session, then we will try and identify assumptions, paradoxes, and inferences, which will be the next three type of critical reasoning questions. All right, guys, with that, I'm coming to the end of my session. If you have any questions, guys, um, feel free to ask. All right, I think that's that then. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day. Adios. I will see you tomorrow morning.